Hi, welcome to the Sales Strategies for Christian Coaches podcast. I'm Justin Janowski, your host, and I started my first coaching business in 2012, got one paying client, and promptly went out of business. 3 years later in 2015, I had 3 paying clients, and within a few months was out of business. 3 years after that, in 2018, I launched again, and I did over $250,000 in revenue my first year as a coach. Now we've done millions of dollars in sales. I've worked with over 1,000 Christian coaches, helping them optimize their signature offers, their marketing, and their sales strategies, and to do it all with integrity and love in a way that honors their values. And I know that the big thing for me, the reason why I failed those first couple of times, and the reason I had success the third time outside of God's provision, and I believe he was there with me in all 3 attempts, is that I learned how to build a system around sales. And that's what you need to do as well. That's probably why you're here. And today I want to talk about the problem. And specifically, I want to invite you to know the problem, share the problem, and solve the problem for your prospects. To know the problem that your prospects are facing, you have to have a specific, dialed in, targeted audience. Once you have a specific target audience, and you get to know them really well, you get to understand their problems really well. What we want to do is know the problem well enough that we can articulate it, that we can talk about it in such a way that the person who has the problem that we solve as a coach, a trainer, a leader, the moment they hear that problem spoken or written by us, they say, that's me, that's my problem, that's what I'm trying to solve. If this is well designed, we've got the makings of a successful business, but we first need to know, who are we wanting to work with? What problem are we trying to solve? And is that audience willing to pay to solve that problem? We have to have those things in place. Once we have that, then the next step is to share the problem. And specifically what I'm talking about here is if you're doing social media posting, if you've got a website, if you are public speaking, delivering keynotes, online or in person, if you're running a webinar, the design of all of these things should be built around sharing the problem. Not because we're trying to create problems that don't exist, but because we want people to see truth. And the moment people own the truth that they have a problem that they need to solve is the moment that they can begin to seek out the solutions that will solve that problem. Right now, I'm really learning in our webinar that we're running each week, Land More Coaching Clients, which I'd love for you to join us in, landcoachingclients.com. You can find out information there. But in that weekly webinar, what I'm learning is that the important part of the webinar is helping people identify the problem. One of the things I know is awareness is the first step towards transformation. Once people are aware of the real problem that they have, then they can begin to move towards transformation and solving the problem. And, if we're a great coach, if you're a great coach, if you're a great leader, one of the first things that you need to do is help people gain the awareness of the problem that they have. And some people think they've got one problem, but they've got a whole other one. Some people know what the problem is. They just need to hear it said by somebody else to know that they're not alone in it. And so sharing the problem is so important. And when we're sharing the problem, one of the things that Caleb Spittler came and talked to our group about in public speaking is when we know the problem, sharing the problem in different ways helps people connect to it, identify with it, and ready themselves to solve the problem. And so when we're sharing the problem, yes, we should speak it, and we should also probably share a study. We should share a statistic. We should share a quote or a table or a graph. Find different ways, different creative ways to share the problem that your ideal client is facing. And that's going to help the problem feel more real. And it's going to help that prospect know that they're not alone and know that other people have faced the same problem and that other people have solved this problem. And that gives them hope, vision, courage, and makes it easier and more likely for you to help them solve that problem. Of course, as you share about the problem and solving the problem, it would be great for you to share testimonials. Some of you are new coaches and you don't have those yet. So go help someone solve the problem and then capture the testimonial, the story, that person's before and after, and start sharing that story. If you want a pro tip, when you're sharing the stories of clients you've helped, talk about also the objections that they had to solving the problem with you before they decided to do so. Because if you can talk about the real objections that people had before they solved their problem with you, that's going to speak to the heart of the objection that your current prospects have. And so when I tell a story about my clients, I'm remembering what it was like in the sales process with them and saying, for Laura, this felt like the worst possible time because she had just made another $30,000 investment with another coach and it didn't work out. So the idea of making another investment felt really heavy. Ultimately, she decided that she would make that decision, even though it was scary because it felt like what she needed. And the next week, she made two $7,500 sales. That $15,000 in revenue is more than she sold the entire previous year in her coaching business. So that's the story. Now, I've told that story about the transformation. There's more to it, but the transformation that Laura went through and how she sold $15,000 in the first week after we started working together, after she hadn't sold anything near that over the previous year. I've told that story over and over, but the important part I was leaving out for a while was how hard it was to make that decision to work with me in the first place because she had made this other failed investment. And telling that part of the story, especially when I'm speaking in a group setting, is so valuable because it speaks to the objection that some of the other people might have, some of my other prospects might have. Same thing when I talk about another client who was scared to make the decision or who felt like they didn't have enough time or who was scared to leave their full-time job. If I can, through the stories of people that I've helped solve the problem, also speak to the objections that my current audience has, it makes it even easier for them to imagine themselves overcoming their objection, their fear, their concern, and saying yes to the next step. And then the third part of this, if you know your audience's problem and you've shared your audience's problem in a compelling way, the third part, of course, is to solve the problem. To get really good at solving the problem, to become obsessed with solving the problem. Now, in almost all instances, coaches, trainers, service providers, solving the problem with your clients requires their participation. In most cases, most of my clients, most of you listeners, you're running a program that is done with you or do it yourself. Like you're teaching people, you're giving them the map or you're helping a little bit, but they have to execute on the process. And so you're not going to be able to solve the problem every single time for every single person if their involvement in the process is absolutely necessary. Now, there are some of you who are service providers who do the work. It's done for you, for your clients, and you may be able to have a more consistent success rate. What we want to do is become obsessed with helping as many people as possible solve that problem as efficiently as possible. This is client service. This is pouring your heart into it. This is the easiest part for most of you, is giving your best to help people solve the problem and become more of who God created them to become. Step a little bit closer into that person that they're meant to be, to create and have a little bit more of what they want in their lives. And when we do these three things consistently, they're really foundational to a successful coaching or entrepreneurial business. Know the problem, share the problem in multiple interesting ways, and solve the problem, which helps us, of course, know the problem even more, gives us another story to share, and makes it even easier for us the next time to solve the problem again. Know it, share it, solve it. Let's do it together. If you want to work with us on solving your problem around sales, join us at our next free training, our free masterclass, landcoachingclients.com, www.landcoachingclients.com. I'd love to have you in a 90-minute training where we address that problem you're having around sales and we help you break through to solve that problem and finally achieve the success that you've been working towards in your coaching business. God bless you all. Thank you for listening. I look forward to talking with you soon. See ya.